welcome back to the Fly the Flag podcast with your hosts, Jonny Fowler and Mike Ferrossi. We're a mortgage show where we talk to mortgage people about mortgage things. Jonny, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Great. It's a beautiful day in Houston, Texas. You're sitting in California. And I'm so jazzed about this. We recorded our first sessions yesterday. And after doing that, I studied a tremendous amount. I am doing great. One thing I've learned, and I've got to do this, I'm used to being on stage and I'm used to speaking in front of large audiences, but this is my first hosting of a podcast. I've been on many podcasts, but this is my first hosting. So I've realized I've got to slow down. So we need to come up with some sort of keywords so you can say something like slow the hell down or something like that.
That's I like it. Direct. Clean and direct is the way to go. We can start tossing some baseball signs out if you want.
There you go.
Okay. We'll do something. But to, like we said yesterday, we're going to get guests on here so people don't get tired of our ugly mugs. So we have a guest today. I know her as Bethany. She's new to American Financial Network. She is the queen of all things social media. You know her a little bit better than that and can probably do her more justice with an intro. Would you please?
Sure. Yeah. So Bethany MacLachlan is new to AFN, like you said. We came over at the same exact time. Her and I have been working together now for 4.5 going on 5 years. At one point, she was running every piece of social media for me, for my company, and doing an amazing job. And what's really funny, and you'll get a kick out of this, most of the time when you find somebody that's in that position, they're somewhat introverted. You know, they're more of the techie person. Well, Bethany is
kind of like to stay in their hole and just do their thing, right?
Bethany, and the way it was really presented to me at one point in time by one of my coaches, hype men, was it's Bethany. And that's who she is. So she is so full of energy. She is so good at what she does. And I am just every day thrilled to death that I get to work with her. So without any further ado, could you bring in Bethany MacLachlan?
I will bring in
social media manager for AFN.
MacLachlan. What's happening, Bethany? I've been told that it's not possible to oversell you, so I'm not worried about that.
No pressure. No pressure at all.
Welcome to the pod. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you, Jonny.
We figured why not kick off our first guest with a little female touch. I think every piece of content created in the mortgage industry could probably use just a little bit more of that these days. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And based on the intro, all our peeps out there in video land are probably thinking that we're going to talk about social media stuff right now. But we're not. Let's throw a little curveball. After we ended our recording session yesterday, I asked Jonny what we wanted to talk about in the next episode, and he was inspired by a conversation they had earlier that day. Jonny and Bethany work in the same office, and they were chatting about some things, and he said, quite simply, how soon do you want to get controversial on this podcast? So let's get controversial.
Let's get controversial.
What is the topic at hand, my friends?
You know what? I would kind of like to hear. So here's where it came from, and this is why I said what I said yesterday, is the age difference between Bethany and I. You know, and I make the joke all the time that I'm old enough to be her dad, and she does what she just did. She rolls her eyes and looks off inside. But it is a complete. There is a massive generation gap. Bethany is a millennial. I'm obviously an Xer. And one of the things that we do almost every single day is we talk about pertinent topics that are going on in the world, whatever it is and whatever it means. And we get both sides on it. You know, this started out, it was very kind of touchy because you've got a very young woman asking an older guy, you know, so why are you against wiping out student loan debt? Why are, things like this? So I've got to be very careful because not only am I one of the owners of the company, but this could be a very controversial subject.
Yeah.
So we've done this for 4.5 years now, and I really want to get her input, her points on this, so we can talk about some of these things. Now, obviously, we've got to be careful of some things, so I'm going to leave some of them out or not comment on it. But I want to get some of her input. I want to get some of her
feel
questions.
The flow of the conversation. See what actually comes out here.
And I want to find out what her thoughts are, because she's looking to be a first-time home buyer, and she is now going through the things that I went through at a much younger age. The only difference is home affordability is something that she's realizing as we speak.
Yeah. So one thing that I will say that one of the reasons why me and Jonny can work so well together is because we can have these conversations and not scream. And I really appreciate that, we can have them and talk about the facts and not get emotional about that. Just talk about what's behind it. So what happened was, I went to school. I was not one that my parents paid for all of my school. I had to get financial aid. And so I was 18, went to the financial aid office, did what you're supposed to do. And there was another 18-year-old across the desk from me. And I was like, okay, I need to get financial aid for this. Well, here's my FAFSA, here's all my stuff. And he goes, okay, how much do you want? To an 18-year-old. So I'm like,
all of it, please.
Oh.
I'm like, can I
more than the $300 that Capital One just pre-qualified me for my first credit card.
Right. So I'm thinking, I don't know, like, how much do I want? How much do I want? How much? Yeah. I'm like, so I just spit out a number, and he was like, sure. Sign, go.
Mm-hmm.
And then, coming into the mortgage industry and learning all of the things that we have to in order to be compliant, learning about, predatory lending and all these things that you can't do to put somebody in a situation where they're trapped, seeing that, and then knowing my own experience getting money, it was just one of these things like, oh my gosh, this is so wrong. And then I came out of school in 2008. So right in time for the crash. Yeah. And I got laid off 2 months after having my first big job.
Oh,
so not only did I have all this student loan debt, I now had to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I've been fighting this battle for a while. So of course, whenever this thing came across about student loan forgiveness, I'm like, hell yeah, I would totally want to do that. So I come in and I'm talking to Jonny because he talks about things in the morning, and he's like, student loan forgiveness, blah, 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 that's such crap. And I was like, why do you think that's crap? That's amazing. And so we had this conversation, and he was just like, do you know what it means to have student loan forgiveness? Do you know what that, because there's, economics, you had to take that. There is no such thing as a free lunch. So this is what actual student loan forgiveness means. It doesn't mean poof, it's gone. It means poof, somebody's retirement is gone. Somebody who invested in those student loans now has no retirement because you forgave it. It's not, oh, everything's good, everything's great, we can print more money. It's, oh crap, grandma can't afford her medication this month because her retirement was just wiped out. And that was something that was very, I didn't think, nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks that when they're going in there and asking for money. Nobody thinks that when, okay, I have this huge student loan bill, no one's thinking that. No one thinks that far forward. And I think it's really important to educate people on what this actually means rather than saying you're dumb because you want student loan forgiveness. No, tell me what it actually means, which is, again, why I really like having these conversations with Jonny, because he'll break it down to brass tacks. What is the actuality? What is the reality of this happening in our society? What is the trickle down effect?
Jonny, go ahead and give us those brass tacks. That's a great transition.
Okay. Well, so before we get, in my opinion, before we get to student debt forgiveness, I think we should probably look at the core of this. And after somebody who's been in the lending business for 28 years, in my opinion, there's only one thing that I can think of at this moment in time that is more predatory lending than student debt, period. And that's for another subject. It's those payday loans.
Hmm.
But I
Whether
think
or not college education is worth it these days or not is also for another day.
it is. But it's the ability. How is it possible that lending institutions can get away with going to an 18-year-old kid saying, what do you want to be for the rest of your life? That's going to cost X tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sign up for this. That same kid can't go legally buy a beer, but he can make a decision to put himself in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, that is the apex of predatory lending. So I want to start with that one. I think that should be wiped out and illegal, no ifs, ands, or buts. If we're going to go farther into that, when you take out this debt, in theory, everybody qualifies for student loan debt. Whether it be a trade school that just got nailed massively, whether it be a government backed, anything like that, there is no true qualification, in my opinion, to get student loan debt. Anybody can sign up for it. And Elon Musk is pretty famous for saying, any 18-year-old kid can go sign up for $100,000 in student loan debt, but you can't get a $10,000 loan from a bank to start a business. Yeah. So I think that you've got the root of the problem there. And I can speak a little bit to this because they did it to my brother. They handed out credit card applications all over his college campus. And before he could even, really even know what it was, he was $20,000 in debt from credit cards. Yeah. So now we're going to take a little bit farther. And the reason student loan debt forgiveness is a horrible, horrible thing is that money came from somewhere. Now, if it's inside of a pool or inside of a bond, like I explained it to Bethany, that her parents or grandparents or somebody invested in, and that money is all of a sudden wiped out clean, then that money's just gone. That means grandma's retirement is now gone. But if it's even worse than that, if we just start printing money to assume the debt, what that really does is a couple things. First of all, it cheapens our economy as it is anyway. It cheapens the value of the dollar, but then it also cheapens the degree, in my opinion. So it's multifold, but I want to hear, you're closer to that generation. Tell me what your thoughts are.
So, I mean, like I talked about with you privately yesterday, I live in the gray on a lot of this stuff. Yep. I don't think you have to believe one thing or the other. It all, my opinion, is based completely on where the funds are coming from. If they're printing more money, then, and let me just make this clear, we're all well aware that we have no control over any of this crap. Correct. So whatever happens is going to happen. Our input isn't going to change the minds of anyone. But obviously, if it's coming out of retirement funds, it's coming out of the wrong place, because then you're looking at kind of a Robin Hood situation, only you're not taking away from the evil king. You're taking away from, like you said, sweet grandma that's contributed to that account for so many years in order to get those benefits back when they need them. But if they're printing money, I'm kind of on the edge. I'm a little bit conflicted. I mean, at the end of the day, okay, back online after that glitch. There's never a podcast without a problem, right? So like I was saying, I don't like the cost of gasoline being where it's at. I'm sure nobody does. The inflation, the price is going up at the grocery store for things that we usually buy every day. You just don't get as much food for the same amount of money as you used to. These are not things that you can really pinpoint. I mean, these are not things that I'm willing to pinpoint. That would take too much research and time away from what I normally have to do on a day-to-day basis. But it does hurt the wallet. And like we were saying before, like the electric bill and what some of the utility companies are doing is it seems criminal these days. So if printing the money is going to show itself in a continuation of all of that, then we really need to think about what we're really doing here with student loan forgiveness, because you're affecting millions of people to help I don't know, tens of thousands. I don't know how many people this student loan forgiveness is actually going to affect. I don't know if there's a limit to the funding, if there's a time frame you have to apply in, who's actually going to qualify. But just from a personal case scenario, my sister-in-law had boatloads of student loan debt. And she ended up moving back home over COVID to be closer to family and save some money on rent. She got out of Seattle, things like that, and really started hammering away on her student loan debt, which she paid off literal weeks ago.
Nice.
Just before this announcement. And she's thinking, why? I just missed it. But her younger sister, my other sister-in-law, she's a second grade teacher and has right about 10 grand in student loan debt left. And this could wipe that out and prepare their family for a better financial future sooner than it would have happened. So there's multiple sides to every coin. I guess I don't really have a strong opinion on it because I have no control and it doesn't affect me.
No dog in the fight.
No dog in the fight. But if it's coming out of retirement accounts, instead of forgiving things, is there a way to re-amortize things? Is there a way to help pay it off in a different way? Help people pay it off. Put them on a different payment schedule. They're collecting interest on that stuff. Why not maybe lower the interest to help things out? You know what I mean? I'm ignorant on this stuff. Like I'm not going to
done this forever.
Like I know a whole lot.
Postponed the payments, and this is where I'm getting into predatory lending. So you're postponing the payments, but you're still collecting the interest, and it's high interest in most cases. And some people are getting out of school with only $20,000 in student loan debt, but when they get all of the payment forgiveness, the interest that's being accumulated all of a sudden takes a $20,000 debt and makes it a $50,000 debt.
Yep.
This is where, in my opinion, you've got some predatory lending issues.
So I'll say a couple of things. So the student loan forgiveness for educators and those who have actually if they have a government job, if they work for a charitable organization, or if they are an educator, that student loan forgiveness has actually existed for a very long time. So the rules are if you pay and you pay back to back, no skipping payments for 10 years, then the rest of your debt will be forgiven. That's been the rule like forever. So hers, absolutely, yes. My question is though, if we have that for teachers, where is that forgiveness coming from? Because that's been in the works for a very long time. That was in the works, when I first signed up. Now, when Jonny was saying as far as, the interest level and all that absolutely. So I did have a college account. Granted, when my grandparents started it, school was a lot cheaper. So it only paid for about a year of my education. Yeah. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I must have changed majors a million times. I mean, I was everything from forensic chemistry to interior design, and I'm not kidding. My counselor was like, "What are you doing to me? What can you do?" And
this is the person who was asked how much money she wanted to borrow.
Exactly, no question about that. Wouldn't you have loved to have been the one to try and figure out what credits transfer from forensic science into interior design?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. God bless my counselor.
You can bring over your kinesiology credit, and that's about it.
Yeah. Everything else you got to scrap. And I ended up with a degree in healthcare administration, which clearly I'm using in the mortgage industry. But anyway, so when I got out of school, and I had 2 years that I was on full scholarship. I had only taken out about $30,000, but at the point that when I finally got off of that grace period, you get a 6-month grace period after you get out of school where you're not accumulating interest. And then, for some of them, and then you go straight into interest. You can either you have some forbearance period. Again, you will still have that interest. And then have other things like if you have certain income, you can do income based, and that accumulates too. So you still have that interest piling on and piling on and piling on. Even if you use all these different deferments and all this stuff, that you still have that interest. So by the time I'm here, I graduated in 2008. I'm looking at quite a bit. I'm looking at probably around 70 grand. And I'm still paying. I'm still making payments, making minimum payments or whatever I can do at the time. But that's still, I mean, for taking out 30,000 and now I'm up to 70, you know, I'm not a doctor. So that's quite a bit of debt that I'm looking at.
See, that's, if anybody truly cared about student loan debt, which I don't think that they really do. I think they care about pandering. If they truly cared about student loan debt, that's something that they would look into. Mm-hmm. That's something that they would pay attention to, is the fact that you can 150% your debt in a period of a decade for trying to better yourself and help the system, the society, the country. That's something that somebody should pay attention to.
And here's the questions that I have, because I try to look at stuff like this logically, and if something doesn't add up, and I ask a question. They're forgiving a bunch of student loan debt. Great. But are they not still writing tons of the same exact student loan debt?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the point?
Lending.
What's the point? If you're going to forgive student loan debt, that's fine. Make that part of a bigger plan to make schooling more affordable.
Yes, make it affordable. Have you ever gone, I don't know if Johnny has, have you ever gone to a college bookstore?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen the books?
I paid for them.
Yes, I know you do. Yeah. A book that's this thick costs $600, something like that. And then you go to sell it back because you think, you know what, someone will go and get used books and you get $2 for it.
And you can, but you could buy it used for $547.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things like that. Things like the fact that why does a class cost $1,200? One class costs $1,200. What is that based on?
Yeah.
Well, then you know, and this is something from being a parent that went through this and paid for these things. Mm-hmm. Then what I really get a kick out of, and you're talking about this, a $1,200 per credit hour expense. Mm-hmm. Then you'll find out that there's a tremendous amount of these professors that are moonlighting at community colleges. Mm-hmm. And that same exact professor that's at the big university that is collecting, not getting paid, but the university that's collecting $1,200 per school hour, they're able to teach the same exact curriculum at a local community college that is $150 per credit hour for the same exact person.
How does the student loan forgiveness relate to mortgage? Because there's don't get me wrong, there's plenty of negative about it, but there's plenty of positive about it too. So let's think about the people in Bethany's shoes, or the people who are about to graduate from college and are trying to prepare themselves for home ownership in the near future, maybe sooner than some would expect them to be able to buy a home. How does student loan debt forgiveness help them, other than wiping out payments so they can afford a little bit more? It has to go a little bit deeper than that, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I would definitely want to know, because I was very careful with my credit when I was in school. I listened to my parents when they said, you know, the free t-shirt is not worth that credit card debt. And I actually never opened up a credit card until I got out of school and had to make a car repair. And that was the first time I ever charged anything. So my question would be, okay, this student loan debt, how is that going to affect my DTI?
And we're back again. Man, if you thought this stuff was controversial, you would have heard what we just cut out. Back into what we were talking about with Bethany before we were so rudely interrupted by technology and then went off on our own tangents. Student loan forgiveness and how that affects homeownership, specifically you wanting to buy your first house. Some thoughts on it. How's that going to affect you? Are you going to apply for student loan debt forgiveness? Do you know? That's a decision that might be up in the air still.
Yes. If we're going to put that out there, yes, I will apply.
To hell with grandma.
Absolutely. Come on. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes.
All right.
I will. I will take full advantage of it. Now, do I think
I bet you it's not as easy to apply for forgiveness as it was to take on the debt.
Oh, agree. I've already gone through the government loop-de-loo. I mean, like, first of all, that site is crashing every 15 minutes. Second of all, like, it's a whole process. You have to subscribe to a newsletter, and they'll let you know when it's live, and then you're going to have to try for a week to get in to actually apply for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm definitely, as far as
a lot about the pretty similar to the PPP loans a couple years ago. Seems like
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, no, I absolutely will apply for it. My question is, like I was saying before, I was very careful with my credit score. I was very careful. I listened to my parents. I knew that there were going to be predators out there in the quad with, their little table and, get a free t-shirt. And my parents were like, it's not worth the free t-shirt. It's not. And so I was like, okay, cool. So, but yeah, I didn't have any credit card debt when I left school. The first credit card that I even opened was a Bank of America that I had to use for a car payment, for a car fix, because my car broke right after I got out of school. And that was the first thing that I ever used a credit card for. And I've been very careful with that. So my entire, my debt is 100% student loan. And so, yeah, I'm very interested to see how is that going to affect my DTI? How is that going to affect me being able to qualify for, an FHA or a conventional? How is that going to look? And what do I need to do in order to, be able to afford, not a hole in the ground?
But that's another one. We talk about affordable housing. We've been talking about affordable housing since I was old enough to watch television and see what they were talking about on television. And we talk about it, but we don't ever do anything about it.
Yeah, that's unfortunately true. There's, as a mortgage professional, is there really anything we can do to help create more affordable housing?
Not on our side. There really isn't. Products are something. And I think that there's been a good job, a decent job of products of helping things like that. I mean, yesterday we were talking about the fact that I love our one-time close programs and things like that. So if you wanted to, in theory, you could take some of the expense that a new build costs out of the equation and have, you build a home yourself. You pick the builder, you pick the land, things like that. With our products that we have with USDA being 100%, VA, which is the best loan that there's ever been, being 100%. So there are things that we as a mortgage industry can do, but we don't have any power on regulation. We're also in a capitalistic society. So unless there's some sort of subsidy going towards something of true value, instead of getting rid of student loan debt, why don't you make some sort of subsidy for, affordable housing?
And when it comes to affordable housing, there's a lot of people that can't afford housing. They just can't afford the down payment.
Not everybody was built to be a homeowner.
It's true. I'm talking about the people who have been making rent payments on time, month over month for years. They just haven't had a chance to save up that lump sum of down payment. And I know at AFN we understand that. There's people all over the place just like that. I can afford house payment. I just can't afford that initial investment. And that's why down payment assistance programs exist. There's a ton of them. I can afford every payment except for the down. Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot. There's a few nationwide ones that you can use pretty much anywhere. There's also tons of regional ones, whether they're state, county, or city specific. I checked our list just yesterday for a borrower that I was talking to. And at AFN, we're approved and active with over 200 different down payment assistance programs across the nation. I just saw that list. It's overwhelming for people who know what they're talking about. So if you can afford all the other payments, but not the down payment, there's help out there for you. I was talking to Sarah in secondary when she showed me that list, and I can't remember, it's 216, 221, something like that. And I asked her. That's why I stick to over 200. Yeah, because that's enough of a number to make an impression. Who keeps up with this? And she told me the young lady's name that kept up with it. And I said, we all need to send her like a thank you card. Yeah. We all need, there needs to be a day declared for her, because anybody that keeps up with all of these, that person deserves at least half a day off on Friday. Yeah,
Right.
it's a lot to keep track of. All the different approvals and all the different avenues that you have to go through for all these different down payment assistance programs. It's crazy to keep track of. But we are a nationwide company and we want to serve the nation. So we
50
do
states.
get approved with all of those regional specific down payment assistance programs. And at corporate, it's hard to keep track of it all. So we just defer all that to our branches. I mean, we've got 200 branches nationwide. They're going to know what's available in their area. They are the local experts that we count on. So if there's a good down payment assistance program that one of our branches or one of our loan officers finds and really wants to either market it or use it to help a couple of borrowers that they have in mind, then they just let corporate know. And we say, hey, I mean, if you think you're going to do more than one loan on this ever, you know, and it's going to be worth going through all the work that it takes to get approved with it, we'll get approved with it. We do it all the time.
So Bethany, one of the things I'm hearing Mike say is to get a hold of a AFN loan officer, talk to them about your situation, let them guide you and give you all of your options, and down payment assistance may be one of your best options to buy with. That's sound advice. It is something that you can bank on, count on, and you're going to get the real, honest information right off the bat.
It's a good spot to stop it. Whatever makes the cut. I don't know how long this episode's going to end up being, but thank you all for watching and listening.
I'm with you on that because I'm curious to see. I'm interested to find out if somebody is bold enough to say, you know what, take a couple of F-bombs out and let's put it out there, or somebody says, why the hell did we let Mike and Jonny do this? Who picked this group?
and just in case the whole thing gets cut, you guys don't have to worry about it because I'm going to try to steal these two for another 10 to 15 minutes. I have another topic in mind.
Perfect.
So thank you for watching and or listening to the Fly the Flag podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you very much. Bethany, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.